I just finished doing the Sound of Music tour, and oh my god, I cried. We visited 2 locations of Von Trapp family home. The front of it was actually filmed in a different location than the lake scene where you'll remember them all falling into the river. I got to visit the gazebo where Liesel and Rolf fall in love. I am 16 going on 17. You know I'm not actually. It's really awkward when you're a solo traveler sitting on a bus full of people singing Do Re Mi and you start to tear up because you love the song so much and are just so overwhelmed. We went out to the Lake District and got to see the original church in the film where Mr. Von Trapp and Maria were married. The film The Sound of Music actually ended up winning 5 Oscars. The score is incredible, one of the best written soundtracks of all time, in my personal opinion, which is why it's so special for me to be here. The little lady who guided our tour was like the sweetest woman in the entire world. She could have been a young Maria, for all I know. Do you remember the stairs where they're jumping and pretending like it's a piano? That is right over to my right. If you thought that Vienna was the city of music, man, this is a close second. Everything since I've gotten here has been Sound of Music this and Mozart that. It's everywhere here. A little bit of a brief history from behind Salzburg. It was founded over 1400 years ago by monks. There's still an abbey here, there's practicing nuns here. So Mozart was born in Salzburg in 1756, and he was originally baptized as Johann Christosimus Theophilus Wolfgang Mozart. He inspired the Salzburg Festival, which still continues today. It is a giant festival that is designed for operatic competitions, and the Von Trapp family, the family that The Sound of Music is based on, actually won this in 1935. At age 3, Mozart began playing music. Do you know what I was doing when I was 3? I was trying to get through a day successfully without wetting myself. What a lot of people don't actually know about Mozart is that he did have an older sister. What's interesting about his sister is that she was also introduced to music at a very early age and toured with Mozart under the encouragement of their father. Mozart learned very early from watching her play the keyboard, and she was actually quite a talented musician herself. But once Mozart's sister reached the marriage age, she was no longer allowed to perform in public. It just wasn't tradition, it wasn't what women did, they just got married and didn't ask any questions. Mozart composed his first piece of music, which was a minuet, at age 5. Again, I don't want to know what I was doing at age 5. I think what I did at age 5 was I made it an entire year forcing everyone to call me Cinderella. Mozart learned how to write music before he could even write words. As if it wasn't enough that Mozart was writing music at age 5, he was also playing professionally. By age 6, he started performing for royalty. Now I know I missed telling you this in Vienna, but while he was there, he performed for the Empress Maria Theresa. Now you might not know who Maria Theresa was, but you will know who her daughter was. So when Mozart performed for Maria Theresa, he amused her by asking one of her younger daughters to marry him. This woman was Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. Future Queen of France. How crazy is that? If you were to listen to every single song that Mozart wrote, it would be 202 hours long. So that means in the time that I've been on this trip, I traveled and continuously played Mozart music. By the time I got home, it wouldn't even be finished. Mozart wrote half of the total symphonies that he would create in his lifetime between the ages of 8 and 19 years old. Mozart composed over 600 pieces of music in his short lifetime. The Beatles recorded 229, less than half, and it took 4 of them to write that music. While growing up, Mozart was inspired and studied the works of Johann Sebastian Bach and George Friedrich Handel. Can you handle it? Can you? Can you handle it? Can you handle it? Terrible puns. I'll be back with more. Many people believe that Mozart is actually buried in Vienna, but this is not true. No one actually knows where his body is, and he was buried in an unmarked grave. If you find yourself in Vienna, I highly recommend the Sound of Music official tour. It's a little bit expensive, but it's totally worth it, especially if you're only going to be here for a short amount of time and want to go see the Lake District. It is one of the most beautiful places in all of Austria. I'm leaving tonight. I have to cram it all in one day. Again, because I didn't learn my lesson from Vienna. I think I'm definitely going to put it on the bucket list that I need to come back and see the Salzburg Festival. I have a pretty extensive bucket list, and I was hoping to tick one off. Do a Sound of the Music run on an Austrian hilltop. But unfortunately, I'm not going to have time, so I guess I'm just going to have to come back. Isn't that awful? So that completes the trip in Austria. Standing behind me is Mozart statue, which is in central Salzburg, and I am off to catch my train to Bonn, Germany to check out birthplace of Beethoven. Thanks again for joining me. I'm so sad to be going, but I hope that you enjoyed it. Auf Wiedersehen, Austria. Chocolate!